and welcome to Celia's Playlist. I am here today with Mike Messer of the prog folk rock band Adoraborealis. Mike, how's it going?
Hi, I'm really happy to. It's going great. I'm happy to be here talking to you.
I'm happy to have you here. There's so many people that I have interacted with on because we met on Threads, but
Yeah,
I always see you pop up or I have seen you pop up in the comments, and I'm like, this dude seems so cool. So I'm glad that we were able to hang out here today.
I was joking with my brother on online. I said, I think I said, you're my favorite person on
Threadster,
Threads, and he got on and was
yeah.
like, "Thanks a lot for nothing." Right?
I thought that was so funny. I was like, who is that? That must be like a family member or something. But oh
Yeah,
boy. I was
yeah,
like, am I getting in the middle of something? I think I probably sent like the eyes emoji. I probably was like,
yeah. I think he did.
so Mike, tell me a little bit about you and I guess your musical history.
So I'm in short, I've been writing songs and since I was a very little kid. And when first started taking, I started taking guitar lessons as a like I had begged my mom for a guitar, and when I was 11, and but I just really liked the look of it, and I never practiced or anything. So about the time when she got it for my I think my 10th or 11th birthday, and I had some months of lessons leading up to it. And by the time the guitar came, we were renting one before that. By the time it came, I was like useless. I couldn't play anything. So she was like, when you're old enough, you can pay for your own lessons. You can get a job and you can pay for your own lessons. And that's what I ended up doing by the time I was about 16. And then the first lesson I had, we learned, 2-finger power chords. And I used that
Cool.
info and went home immediately and wrote my first song. So I've been writing songs since I was a little kid. I had a career as an actor for a long time. And I was sort of balancing between really want to I don't want to be a singer songwriter, or I kind of want to be an actor, come and do this thing. And then, back in the day when you sort of had to make a choice between them, it's all integrated at this point. Uh, but um, I've been doing, I was, I've been, so I've been a singer songwriter for most of my entire life. And for the last 15 years, I've been just a musician professionally. Um, the band that I'm in now is called Adoraborealis, and it's basically like my nom de plume of what I'm up to. I wanted, when I was doing this, it was like during pandemic, I started to sort of really shift gears into this project, and I didn't really want to call it the Mike Messer Band. It just didn't have it had no art to it, you know. And I had a drummer in a previous incarnation of this, and he was like, no, he's a German guy named Uwe. He was like, no, you got to really, this is what it is. You got to call it the Mike Messer Band. And I was like, yeah, because you play cocktail jazz. And
Hmm.
that's a great name for a cocktail jazz band, but it had nothing to do with what this is. Um, and so the music that I'm doing now is all it's singer songwriter, and every song is somebody talked about it the other day. They said most of your music is about repair. Um, healing is sort of an overused term of it, but relation, like how can love survive with the things that knock us down, and how can we make the choices of an encouragement for that kind of a thing, for repair. Um, and the music itself is sort of like progressive. It's like progressive singer songwriter kind of stuff, like a lot of Latin grooves, a lot of weird time shifts, a lot of sort of heavy laden poetry, that kind of stuff.
Very cool. So I know that you kind of said that your style is prog folk rock. Like
Mhm.
what influence got you into that specific area?
I was really heavily into Frank Zappa, and I was really heavily into and as an offshoot, I got into Steve Vai, the guitar player, and then through that, I sort of found my way into Zappa, and and that sort of thing. And so I always have this kind of, like Zappa called them, the really ugly chords. Um, um, this sort of bent, I like suspend. I like chords. I like the emotion behind it, suspended chords that don't resolve. Do you know what I mean? Like chords that sort of ask a lot of questions but don't really provide any answers. You
I
know what I'm
gotcha.
saying
I
by that?
gotcha.
You know what I mean?
No, I gotcha. I gotcha. I'm following. I'm
Yeah.
following.
Like, you know, you always hear a chord that's suspended, and then and it's always there in order to resolve. But I think that in music and art, I like things that don't really like, I like films that sort of end like, I don't really know what to make of that.
Like
And
Inception-y, right? Like, where the
like,
the
yeah,
top is still spinning, but it's like wavering a little, and you're like, oh, is it gonna? Oh, like that one you don't get the resolve. You're talking about getting the
yeah,
resolve, but like that moment
yeah,
of like tension, right?
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Like leading with that and leaving with that. And that to me sort of speaks to, you know, to a lot of the feeling that I get out of Prague music. My music's not all that way into that. It's very influenced by it. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like heavily influenced by Paul Simon, heavily influenced by Randy Newman, um, Jeff Buckley, um, uh, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, like things that are very like songs. Uh, but I try to populate my band with, like, you know, guys that can really go out on limbs and make some things happen.
Very cool. So I know that you're in the New York City area. When you go
Mm-hmm.
out and perform, is it usually Mike Messer and Mike Messer with an instrument, or Mike Messer as Adoraborealis, like with a full band? Like what would
It's
people expect at a show?
I usually like say, if it's, I always call it Adora Borealis at this
Mm-hmm.
point. Like I was saying, like I kind of struggle with the idea of like, I don't
Well,
want
I
to just
meant,
use
is it you with like an instrument, or is it like a whole
me
band?
and the
That's
guitar.
kind of where I was going.
Oh, okay, yeah. It'll either be me with a guitar, like me with a guitar, or me with as much as a 5-piece.
Very
It's
cool.
kind of whoever I can get. you know, you know how it is. Like, you'll book a gig, and you'll get the date, and then you'll be like, okay, who's available? And so like I can pull off a show with just me and just by myself, and in that case I'll play guitar. That's my main instrument. So that's what you'll at least get, that. And I might write like Adora Borealis solo acoustic, or Adora Borealis full band, or the last one we just played a show last night, and I called it Adora Borealis and the Astounding A-List All-Stars.
That's fun. That's a fun one.
Just how to build it out. So like it'll either be a trio, a duo. I'll do things like, we put out a record a while ago called Live and in Two Persons, and it's just acoustic guitar and electric guitar and two
Ooh,
voices.
that's really cool.
And yeah, it's neat. And I have there's a bass player that I play with who plays upright, so I'll do like duo stuff like that, or solo, or like a full, like, you know, traditional rock band.
I like that you have the flexibility within that, because one of the biggest issues that I hear from a lot of the artists that I work with is like, and this isn't them saying it to me, it's like me overhearing it. They'll have someone get back to them on a gig, and then they're like, okay, let's see if everyone's free. And then it's like one person's free, and it's either, okay, we have to find a sub, and then it turns into a whole thing, or like, we can't take this day because the important person, like a front person, isn't available, or like things like that. And it's a large stress on a lot of different acts. So it's like, I like to hear that you've come up with I guess, a solution for booking issues.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, like, I had to figure out that, like, no matter what, it's me. And I had to, and like a long time ago, I sort of had to figure out, I had to come to the understanding, because I'm a really social person. I don't really like doing things alone, just because I like social interaction. And that seems to me be like, to me, that's the best thing about music, is to disappear into a shared thing with somebody else. That's the joy of music for me. But I just had to get to a point where I realized, like, if everybody else is sick, or decides that they hate me, or just or wants to quit, or whatever it is, that I needed to get myself to the level where I could pull off anything by myself. And it changed the way I looked at the guitar. I started to look at the guitar as like as part drum, part bass, part part melodic. I had to sort of get a whole other way of viewing things. that also sometimes changes when I get into a full band. You have
Mhm.
to remember that you're like, we were just rehearsing for this full band thing, and I was like, in rehearsal, I was like, whoa, I'm playing way too much. I've got a drummer and a bass player here. Like, I don't have to cover everything by myself. And, like, you get in these habits, but I had to create myself into a place where I had to create myself as a self-sustaining entity. And then anybody else that joins me at that point, it becomes like a joyful gift, but at the end of the day, if everything falls apart, I can pull it off by myself. And I need to reinvent myself that way.
I gotcha. I gotcha. So I have an interesting question because you're in
Yeah.
the New York City area, correct?
Yeah.
Does
Yeah. I
the
live in Harlem.
Yeah, I remember you being close by. Like I see sometimes you post like where you're gonna be at, and I'm like, I'm on Long Island. That's not that far away,
Are you in Long
which
Island?
is really
Okay.
cool. Yeah. So so
That's right. I knew that. I actually knew that.
does the booking influence who you bring with you? Like, and how have you dealt with that in Manhattan?
Um, Most of the guys that I play with can play anywhere. They either have a car or are spry enough to lug instruments. I have a couple of guys that I really love to play with, and I book them for
Hmm.
certain things. Not I've tried to get them on certain gigs, and there's a
Hmm.
limitation. Either they're like they don't have a ride. They have to figure that out, and they may not be spry enough to carry their own equipment.
Hmm.
Even though I love playing with them, if they don't have assistance in that way, um, I just can't use them.
Yeah.
So that is a big that is a big thing. Or if it's somewhere else, like if I'm going to play in LA, I got to source musicians locally, or play myself if that's what it comes down to. So I have people in most of the major cities that I'm really close with, that I really like, that I could you know uh, get on a show. But
Hmm.
also, like, paying, but also, the consideration of paying people
Yeah.
changes what I could do on a tour. I was gonna do a thing. It didn't come to fruition just yet, but we were gonna do with some other players from Boston. We were gonna do a Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Connecticut thing, and I had to really break it down and go, can I afford? Can I afford to pay people? Can they afford to take time out of their lives to only do one gig at this time? Because everyone's running studios or doing sessions or whatever it is. So again, that influences in a big way, and it'll influence all the way to, okay, I'll do this tour solo. This will just be me and the guitar.
I feel like that's one of the biggest considerations when you are a live act or like are performing as a live act. Obviously, I know you also record your music and things along those lines, but I feel like people are always in the mindset of I just need to book shows. So like these are some of the factors that people run into when they book shows, and especially like for someone that would be trying that in either a smaller market, they wouldn't realize that if they come to play New York City, that has its own set of struggles.
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Like what like you mentioned some of it, like carrying your own equipment and things along those lines. Like what are like some of the most common things that you run into with, I guess, the Manhattan market?
um, well, sometimes there's venues that are cool places to play, but they have no backline whatsoever.
Mm.
um, they're not set up at all to do to do shows, and that's something that's surmountable. I have a rig that I can carry on the subway. That's loud enough, that can do four channels. Use an amp simulator. Um, uh, all that kind of stuff. That's a big one. Just being able to lug your stuff from spot to spot, not throw it in a car. My friends in New Jersey and Long Island, they're like, "Oh, we'll do it like this," and I'm thinking, I can't even. If this is mobile to even pull here, like this is my. Sometimes I can't even bring an amp to a gig because it's like there's only so much I can do. So this is my I'm gonna pull this out and show you.
Mm-hmm.
This is my rig. It's also what I record with at home here.
Sorry to make you unplug everything, but this is really cool.
Yeah, there's not much to it.
The
But this
pedal
is my
board.
so this is the whole rig, and here on the end, the other end, backwards. That's my amp simulator, and you can do it with a way smaller board than this. So I'm watching all the gigging musicians that I know are paring down to like way smaller than this, like everything on all the effects on one pedal, the amp simulator on one pedal, so that nobody has to lug anything. You can just plug in and go and bring it into your own PA. But the biggest thing that I've seen really as far as booking in the city, and it's not very common, but it happens here and there, is sort of scammy. This is kind of a big sticking point for me. Sort of scammy promotion, and it only happens at a few places. I'm not going to name what they are, but there's only a few places that really do it, where they say, we're going to book you and we need you to guarantee this, and you need to sell these tickets, otherwise you can't play. And it's really just like it's pay to play. And I try to warn everybody against working with anybody who tries to set up a thing like that. I've turned down a lot of places that, there's only a few that function that way. But it's just like just trying to get you in. Like we're all alcohol salesmen in the end, But for a place to not have a partnership of promotion and most places are really respectful of live music, and there's a few that are just kind of like sort of trying to take advantage of people's desires to get their opportunity to be seen. Very unfair practices. I see that here and there, and I only kind of really see it in the big cities. I don't really see it in like smaller markets so much.
I gotcha.
People were really, especially after pandemic, everyone was so excited to have live music back. There was so much enthusiasm for it. But anyway, I see a little bit of those things here and there. Apart from that, it's really just about size. Like we were talking about, like, paring things down, amp simulators instead of amps, and what can you bring on the subway, like the subway rig, like what can you fit on your back to bring to a tour. It's like everything is all about the lack of a vehicle.
I know so many musicians from here on the island that'll go into Manhattan, but I don't think that they've even thought about getting things like amp simulators. Like they still show up with their PA. Like, it's a whole different mindset in how to make choices in your equipment, because like I don't think I've gotten into like that kind of in this series yet, because like you kind of are getting put into a box that you have to figure out how to function in said box.
It's so much of that is the case. Like I was looking at, it was so funny because it was, again, it's pandemic, you know what I mean? Like we were, all of a sudden we couldn't play anymore. We're playing everywhere and then we couldn't play. And I started to look at all of my equipment, and it's even on the floor here. I was looking at all my equipment and all my stuff, and it was like everything was about little.
Yep.
Everything was about weight. Everything was about compact. And then we got into just being here and doing music online and setting things up here in this, here in my studio here. And that was, the size was not the consideration anymore. It was, how do we get the best sound live into the computer and into StreamYard and into programs like that. Like the circumstances of your, this is kind of really interesting. Like the circumstances of where you're going to have your performances and your music heard dictate everything going backwards. Like the way that you master music, and most people are going to listen to it here, and there's no bass response on these things, has everything to do with it. We're like, all right, we need it to survive. We need to mix the mix to survive these kind of environments. And live, we need to get as much as we can with as small as we can. I mean, this gargantuan board is already a dinosaur, as far as all that.
I totally get that because I feel like I've gone through those kind of evolutions with video gear myself. Like, I went through like many different iterations in my career, and all of it needed different kinds of things. Like there was a lifetime where I was a live stream broadcast engineer, like, and the things that I had for that, I just recently like sold some of that off because like, at that time I needed like hundreds of pounds of wire to go and like use it at like a conference, and like, now I'm just like, oh, I don't really want to do that. And if I'm going to do something like that, it's going to be me with this tiny little thing, and this is going to go very much in front of me and not in a giant like ballroom. So like,
Yeah.
it's really interesting how like, it's just like how I say for people, like, just because someone does video or is a videographer, it doesn't mean that they have like the background or the equipment for the job that you need.
Yeah. Yeah. And you become your own crew.
Mm-hmm.
More and more and more you become a gearhead,
Yep.
because you just start because you start getting into it, and then you realize it's so delicious.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
you
but it's also
love
so expensive. It can add
it's
up
so
on you real
expensive.
quick.
Totally. I just bought, it's not down here. I just had to get, I had the shoulder impingement. I couldn't play acoustic guitars where that had a depth like this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like this motion was
Uh-huh.
killing me. So I found that Fender just came out with this Highway series. They're basically like, they're acoustics that have not a piezo pickup, but a magnetic pickup, like on a Strat, and really comfortable neck and a really thin body to be able to
Huh.
play acoustic live. It's so great. But like, you know, the innovation comes from need, and these things show up at the right time. But like, I sold off all these other guitars in order to pay for it, and you're constantly moving in this like,
It's
oh
like,
my
what
god,
do I need now? What
I
do I
know.
like? What is the thing that is going to help me now? So I totally get that.
Yeah.
So, Mike, I asked this question to everyone on this show. Like, what would be your advice to someone? And this is a big question. If they were going to get into music now, you could take it
Um,
whatever direction that you want to go.
the only thing I can speak to in that is the music itself. That's the only thing I could really
Go
honestly
for
give
it.
solid advice. I mean, I could say a few things like, you know, educate yourself as much. Two things, right? Beyond the music itself, educate yourself as much as possible, as early as possible, about where your income streams are coming from. Between your understand mechanical royalties and who pays those out. Understand streaming royalties and who pays those out. Understand your performance rights organization, BMI or ASCAP, and who pays those out. Um, uh, uh, um, uh, your anything you want to do with your intellectual property,
Hmm.
understand the mechanics of the way that goes, and it's a learning curve, and it could take some time, and you'll get part of it, and then you'll get not part of it. A lot of people don't know that you can get paid for playing your own music at a club, that you make royalties on that. Like a lot of people do know that, but there's all these pockets of ways that you can be earning with that are so easy to get a hold of. Um, uh, just understand that, because the sooner that you build your infrastructure, the sooner you can start licensing your music out. And not, you don't want to be in a position where, and I've been in positions like this with bands, where suddenly you have a song on a TV show, and you're like, oh my god, you get so excited that you're on a TV show, but your infrastructure is not set up already for you to monetize on what that is, and you spend sometimes years chasing older money. Just get as early an understanding of that as possible. That's probably the most important thing I can say. And as far as like the music, I was going to say something flowery, but
You could still
but
be flowery. Go for it.
okay, I was going to say, like, there's so much music out there, and there's so many people wanting to emulate, that the most important thing that you can do is it sounds so cliche, but it's to be yourself. If like you have an idea and you're like, yeah, but these songs don't go like that thing, do it anyway. Create something new. The world needs variety more than anything. The world needs variety, and they need you. No, but while you're busy trying to be somebody else, nobody's doing the job of being you. So that's the flowery thing, I would say.
That
And
was
as
a
far
great flowery thing.
as
So, Mike,
yeah,
where can people find you? And where can people follow you? Because I feel like those are important things.
those are really, really, really important things. And the thing is that also people like, I think we asked at a gig last night. We had this great gig at the Rockwood Music Hall last night.
Oh, I've been there. Great spot.
Have you spent? They just lost stage two.
I've been there. I've shot people for video there, but I haven't been there in a hot second. So you know,
It's
great
still
spot.
going strong. Out on a Tuesday night, like a late show on a Tuesday night. The room was packed. It was so awesome. Um, uh, what was the point I was going to make about that? So I said to everybody, like, please, like, the more, like, each. Here's the thing, like, if you want to support a band, yeah, follow us, and know that when you follow us, when we show, when our Spotify or whatever it shows more followers, it helps us to get gigs. These are the things that people look at when they're trying to decide if you're worthy of playing at their venue. So follow your favorite artists. What were your favorite artists? What a sweet thing to say. Follow Adoraborealis. There's the word on the screen there. You can see it.
I gotta follow you on Spotify too, because
Spotify. Please follow us on Spotify. On YouTube, it's Adoraborealis / Mike Messer Music. Apple Music, if that's what you use, or Tidal, if that's what you use. Whatever your streamer is, follow us there. Put the stuff on as you sleep. Check it out. Add to playlists if you feel so inclined. Like you, the beautiful, incredible hero of Threads, Celia is making the your incredible playlist of projects. But that's where you can do it. Adoraborealis. You can find Mike Messer too, but I do have but you might find me there's no music up there. Everything is released under Adoraborealis. So please, those places do find and follow and like and subscribe. Hit that button.
That's so funny. That's part of like the gig. You have to tell people what to do, or else they don't know to do an action. But I want to thank you. No, I'm not going to cut it.
I have conversations with people all the time. They're like, I'm really embarrassed about promoting myself. I'm sort of loudmouthed and outdone, so like I don't have that issue so much. But people are like embarrassed about doing it when I think they don't realize that other people are excited to hear what you have going on. Like people get shy about it, but like the truth is, like, everybody wants to know what you're doing. Like you said, it's important to blow your own horn.
Very much so. But on that note, Mike, we have reached the end of the interview, and I wanted to thank you so much for like being a part of here, like the playlist project, like the interview. You're such a cool guy, and I'm glad that we got to like hang out and get to know each other. So thank you so much.
I look forward to when we get to do it in person.
Oh yeah, like 100%. Now that I know like where you are, like we'll talk. But
okay,
I want to thank everyone for tuning in today, and we'll see you on the next interview. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you.